Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So today's video we're going to be talking about a topic which has been requested a couple of times. We're going to be talking about deployment in 8th edition. Now this video is going to be probably a little bit different to what some people expected, because when I originally thought about doing this video I was going to sort of set up a battlefield, use my camera and record where I'd place units here and where I'd place units there. But that's kind of a little bit. It doesn't really work, and the reason it doesn't really work is because every battlefield is different. Yes, there will be some general principles, but every battlefield is different. So me setting up a battlefield and showing you how I would deploy on that battlefield, it won't really help you. And don't forget as well, there are 6 different deployment types in 8th edition now. So unless I'm willing to do 6 different videos on how I would deploy, and I could do this, 6 different videos on how I would deploy in each one roughly. It's not really going to work. It's not going to be that helpful. Now there are some basic principles that I can impart, some basic wisdom, but most people will know this instinctively. So when it comes to deploying artillery, if possible, deploy them in corners behind line of sight blocking terrain. When it comes to deploying key tanks, don't forget that your tank needs to be in cover but also 50% obscured to get the +1 save. Don't forget your infantry units need to be wholly in cover to get the bonuses of cover, and you can prioritize. You want to be taking advantage of any cover in your deployment zone. Okay, because deployment and cover go hand in hand. If you've got, look at the units you've got. Do you have basic riflemen with las guns? Okay, they're not really a high value target. You don't really need to worry about putting those in cover so much. Do you have a squad of foot veterans with 3 plasma guns and a las cannon? Yes, well then they probably want to be in cover. Those kind of things are kind of self-explanatory, and most people will already, those who don't know will now, they've got that little bit of advice. That's fine, but that's very basic deployment rules, which most people will know about already. Make sure the 3 basic rules I would say are: make sure that you are using any available cover in your deployment zone. 2, that's a big train going past, sorry. Probably you guys aren't going to hear that. So 1, make sure you make use of any available cover. 2, make sure that you're screening your units properly. Okay, make sure that you're denying your enemy deep strike. That there's no gaps that he can just deep strike in and start messing up your back lines. And 3, be aware of line of sight blocking terrain. How is your opponent go? Make sure you're deploying your heavy hitters so they have good fields of fire. Okay, so they're the basic principles. But that's all good stuff, and I'm sure some people will need telling that information, and that's absolutely fantastic. That they've now got the information. If you want, the third point, if you want to talk about having good fields of fire, make sure if you've got heavy weapon squads, put them high up in the tops of ruins, for example. But that's not really. That's stuff that most people can pick up themselves. Okay, what's really important about deployment is not necessarily what you're deploying, but what your opponent is placing down. Okay, now, what do I mean by that? Well, Guard are really, really fortunate that most Guard armies have access to a really high number of drops. Now, a lot of people are scratching your head and going, but a high number of drops is bad. It means you're going to be going second. Okay, yeah, that's true. But as a Guard player, let me tell you, trying to be the person who has less drops in 8th edition isn't really going to work. From a competitive standpoint, from what I've seen in my meta and speaking to some really competitive people, if you're not able to get less than 6 or 7 drops in your army, then in a competitive scene, it doesn't matter. Okay, most competitive armies will restrict themselves to 6 or 7 drops. They're the ones that are going to be going for that +1. Okay, they want to go first. One way or another, they're gonna have that few drops. It's very easy to do. My Black Templar army can easily get down to less than 9 drops, easily, because I just cram 4 or 5 units in a Land Raider, for example, and you can do that twice if I need to. So if you're not gonna have less than 6, 7 drops, then pretty much go for as many drops as you can go for. Okay. As many as you can go for, because it is key when it comes to deployment. Let's say I have 20 drops, not unusual in Imperial Guard list, and my opponent has 13 drops. Okay? And let's say the majority of the units that I'm placing down, let's say I've got 15 of my drops are things like infantry squads. Okay? But 5 of my drops are things like Leman Russes and artillery, my heavy hitters, the ones that I'm relying on doing a lot of damage, or the units, that I want to be keeping alive to then later do damage to my opponent. Now, if I've got 20 drops, the art of deployment is about deploying units first that you don't care about. So a good example would be, if you're playing Imperial Guard, your opponent knows you're going to be deploying a screen. More than likely, you're going to be deploying a screen of 100 to 150 infantry. So so that's not giving any information away. So what you would do is you would spend your first 10 drops just deploying basic 10-man infantry squads. You're not giving the game away. You know you're going to be putting that screen up. But your opponent, every drop that you're putting down, which is just another wave of infantry for the front line, another screen. For every one that you put down, your opponent will be having to put down his important units. So let's say you're facing a Blood Angels player, and he's got some tactical squads, and he's got some Death Company. But what you're really worried about is his Land Raider and his Bile Predators, or maybe his Tri-Lascannon Predators. What you're really worried about is, or maybe he's got a big, here you go. So you're worried about his Land Raider, and you're also worried, because that can do damage to you, and you're also worried about his big blob of Death Company, because you know he's going to be jumping those guys up the board, using the stratagem that lets them move at the beginning of the game and like charge 3d6. You're worried about where they're going to go, so you need to be able to kill them. So what you do is you put down drop after drop after drop of not useless, but basic stuff, and your opponent will eventually be forced to commit his Death Company unit in this case. So let's say your opponent puts them on the left flank. Now and he ends up putting his Land Raider on the right flank. Now you know that, I don't want to be putting my tanks against his Land Raider. His Land Raider's got 4 lascars. It'll pop my tanks. But I know my opponent's put his anti-tank over there, but I know his Death Company on my left flank. So that's where I want to put my heavy hitters. So you end up deploying several of your Leman Russes directly against his Death Company, nicely screened by infantry, and you have called the shots on deployment then. Your opponent has been forced to show his hand, his or her hand. Your opponent has been forced to show their hand and commit their resources, and they've done that without knowing where you're going to be putting your units, which means you're able to use the deployment phase to counter what your opponent's bringing to the table. So, in our example, your opponent puts down his Death Company on one flank, you put down your 3 Leman Russes with battle cannons on that flank, and then against his Land Raider, you put things down like infantry. extra infantry, foot veterans, or mech veterans, or something. You can put down a unit that can counter his Land Raider. And that's it. There you go. That is the art of deployment. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking deployment is about their units. Deployment's not about your units. Deployment is about your opponent's units and countering his deployment. That is the art of a successful deployment phase. Getting the enemy right where you want them, and then you're starting the game off on the right foot. You're starting the game off with an advantage. So even if your opponent goes first, which he probably will do, it doesn't matter because you've already got the advantage. So there you go. And even better if you manage to go first anyway. It's only a +1, or if you seize the initiative, you've pretty much, you're halfway to winning the game in that situation. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I know it'll probably be a little different to what a lot of people were expecting, but I hope it's been informative. I hope you can understand why, honestly, games are won and lost in the deployment phase. If you don't take advantage, if you just shove your shit down on the table and don't care, then yeah, good for you, whatever. But you're throwing away a huge potential advantage. So there you go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave lots of comments. If you've got any pictures, post them on Facebook. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.